More than 500 bills restricting the rights of LGBTQ plus people have been introduced across the country this year. 77 of those bills have been passed, impacting education and healthcare. Anne Marie breaks this all down for us.
Yeah, in fact, Vlad, this is sort of a bit of a snapshot of all the states that have passed anti-LGBTQ laws, but we're going to highlight a few of them that have really made kind of national headlines. And I'll start things off in Tennessee. So Tennessee has so far passed 5 anti-LGBTQ laws this year, including the first in the nation attempt to ban drag performances. Now, the law received, in public that is, the law received some criticism for its vagueness, and it was ultimately ruled unconstitutional by a federal judge. Now we're going to take you up north to North Dakota right here. North Dakota has passed 10 anti-LGBTQ laws, one of the highest amounts in the nation. They passed restrictions on health care and identification, but one aspect that has drawn attention involves public libraries. North Dakota's legislature has prohibited public libraries from maintaining sexually explicit material. This takes the book ban initiatives targeting queer and racial content and codifies it. And then down to Florida now. Of course, Ron DeSantis making a lot of headlines because of his anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, but the state passed a law banning gender-affirming care for minors. And here's what it includes. It discourages acts of social transitioning, like using different pronouns. But it also makes seeking gender-affirming care a condition for Child Protective Services to take a minor away from their parents. It's currently making its way through legal challenges, Vlad.
For more on this, let's bring in Paula C. Johnson. She's a law professor at Syracuse University's College of Law. So how many of these laws have actually been implemented versus struck down or held up by legal challenges?
Well, good morning. Many of the laws are still being considered by legislatures as well as by the courts. So while a number of them have passed in the state legislatures, they are still being challenged and are making their way through state and federal court systems. So we're not able to say at this moment, for instance, what the final analysis will be on these provisions, but they are all being contested.
So, I mean, I think many people are probably wondering, why are there so many laws now? Why are things so active when it comes to anti-LGBTQ legislation? What's causing this shift?
Well, some of it, of course, is the way in which the country is very polarized on social matters, and we're seeing the proliferation of these laws that is reflecting that. And what is characterizing it is, in particular, a way in which a particularly vulnerable population is now in some ways being scapegoated for some of the other ills that are afflicting the country. A vulnerable population, but also a very resilient one. And so we are simply seeing that this is taking hold as part of the stratification of the country on these social issues.
Transgender individuals, as you know, have been the target for a large portion of these laws. What are some of the new restrictions, and how have activist groups responded?
Well, as you mentioned in your introductory part to this discussion, some of the laws are restricting things like quote unquote drag shows, and a number of restrictions having to do with very serious matters with respect to people's health. I mean, with respect to their actual health, transgender youth, and the accessibility to gender-affirming care. And this is to say, irrespective of parents' and physicians' determinations that these things are necessary for the well-being of the child. So these types of matters are being taken out of the hands of parents and medical professionals and into the hands of legislators and politicians who have deigned themselves to be in a better position to make these decisions about life affirming care and, in fact, care that will save the lives of many youth needing this medical care. We're also seeing matters that are restricting First Amendment rights, having to do with situations in the public libraries, as you mentioned, and what kinds of materials will be accessible in the libraries. And so there is quite an extensive degree and type of laws that would seek to restrict those types of issues that pertain particularly to the LGBTQ plus communities and access to information and access to care.
Professor, when I asked you about why are we seeing sort of a ramping up right now, you said that some of these groups are being used as scapegoats instead of addressing sort of other problems, and sometimes it certainly feels like these are solutions in search of a problem. I don't think in Tennessee there are drag shows on every corner. So was a law like this actually necessary? What did you mean by they're being used as scapegoats?
Well, I mean, because there are so many, serious issues that our country needs to address, and these are not, from my perspective, the most serious matters that we need to contend with in our country. As you mentioned, for instance, these seem to be problems in search of a solution. Or solutions in search of a problem. The drag shows, for instance, these were never events that were designed for young children, and even to the extent that they are expressive and artistic in nature, they don't only pertain to the LGBTQ community either. I mean, think of, for instance, comedians who have performed in what we might say, broadly speaking, was drag, because there were men or male comedians who might dress as female characters. Think of Shakespearean plays. Think of Greek plays. These things have long histories in terms of being represented as a cross-gender type of expression, and so there's really no way in which we can say that these have been problematic aspects within our society. And in fact, if we look at it in a broad sense, we've seen that across performances, across all types of artistic expressions, that they have had wide acceptance throughout the community and the society.
Professor Paula C. Johnson, thank you so much.